Hello, Deb. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you, mate?
I'm very, very good. Nice to see you.
You too. It's been a little
Oh,
while.
been a little while. It's kind of my fault for living in Montreal, but it's
No.
partly your fault as well because you haven't brought the band over here yet.
Oh, don't worry. I'd love to.
I think it's gonna happen pretty soon.
Fingers crossed. Fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, last time I spoke to you it was the whole band, but today it's just you. Have you become like the representative?
I don't think so. I
Or do you
don't
take it
think
in
so.
turns? Is it just whoever's available?
Yeah, we kind of try to split press equally where we can.
Okay, well I'm glad I got you then. Because yeah, for people who are watching, we have known each other for a little while. We were actually living in the same part of Birmingham at one point, but now I'm in Montreal. And when was it the last time we spoke? It's a couple of years ago, and things were just starting to take off. You could kind of feel it in the water, but a lot has happened since the last time we spoke. Uh, how are you feeling about it all?
Um, Amazed, grateful, things we could never have like predicted that things would go the way that they have for us, and we're so delighted with that. We've had the best few years, and yeah, fingers crossed that continues.
Yeah, one of the questions I asked you last time, you probably remember this, was I actually asked everybody in the band if you could pick one band to open for, who would you choose? And seeing as you're wearing the t-shirt, we don't really need to tell everybody who you chose.
Yeah.
So yeah, you chose Lamb of God, and then since then, you guys open for Lamb of God. So
Yeah.
dreams are coming true.
They are. Yeah, crazy, 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 crazy stuff. Best thing in the world ever.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. So I've been a fan. I've seen you guys live only once, unfortunately, but hopefully again soon. So you kind of dripped out singles and EPs and things like that. And the whole time I've been like, God, imagine if we just had like a whole album's worth of HERIOT tunes. What would that sound like? And now we get to find out because the album's coming out. Um, why did you find that now was the right time to do an album rather than releasing another EP or something like that?
I think with when we were writing the EP and when we were in that cycle, I guess we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to rush into anything too soon. We did discuss doing an album as our first, body of work, but I'm really glad that it was an EP that came first because now we're in a position where we've toured on a different level to what we were doing before, and we've got more experience behind us in like what bits of our songs work, what bits we wish that we could change now, and I feel like the debut is more of like a concentrated and a more accurate depiction of who we are now as a band. I think our sound is much more streamlined and it's far more on the nose of what we wanted to sound like as a band. So now felt like a good time to get all of that into a record.
When did the album kind of start for you? What was the first kind of seed of the album?
Yeah, last January or maybe uh not last year, but the year before that, Christmas time. I think we started writing new music around then. Really got stuck into it last January. Then we went on tour. Had a really busy festival season. Came back and kind of reflected on what we'd written, and thought, this can stay, this can go. And then went back at it again in November, and then we went into doing recording I think in February. So it's been kind of behind the scenes for a little longer than what it feels like now, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah. So when you started, you say you started around Christmas time. I guess that was 2022, right? And then into
Yeah.
2023. So it's been a while. But back then, did you know you were writing an album? Did you start with that intention
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
this
we were.
time?
Maybe I have it wrong, and maybe it was actually just last November. No, it can have been. Sorry, I'm going mental. Um, yeah, we were definitely putting everything together for an album. That was always what we wanted to do next, rather than another EP. We wanted to kind of um, get a chunkier body of work out, and an album felt right.
So you say you ditched a few ideas along the way?
Yeah, I mean, with the EP, we didn't really do that. We just kind of wrote what we wrote and uh, kept refining what we already had. But with this one, we were a lot more focused with it, which I'm super grateful for. We kind of give ourselves a bit more time to think about what worked and what didn't, and I feel like that's ultimately made it a better record. We've just really concentrated on what feels best for the album.
At what point during the writing process do you start to think about where the songs kind of sit next to each other on the record, like track list, for want of a better phrase? Like, because I've heard the album, it feels like it really flows really well as a
Oh, that,
complete body of work. So hopefully people will listen to it, in full from front to back. But at what point in the process do you work out where they're gonna sit next to each other?
kind of mixed, really. I mean, when we wrote Foul Void, we thought that that would be a good opener. The intro to that is strong as an intro to an album, we feel. And once we got that one down, then we kind of started to think more about what the other tracks would follow like. And yeah, it kind of just went from that. But to be honest, right up until the kind of like final days of handing the album in, we were revising and going back, and as you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, Foul Void was the one where we were like, I think this should be the opener.
What about the closing track? Like, I feel like people are very deliberate about what comes last.
Yeah, I think with like the EP, we ended it on Profound Morality, and I think it would be quite easy to end on a song that feels, I don't know, emotional. I guess a lot of artists put their like emotional track last, and we were quite deliberate in not wanting to put a track last that you would maybe want to put there. So for a while
Right.
we were thinking maybe like Visage could be last, but then we thought that that would be quite predictable, I guess.
Right.
And Morn, I think, has all of the parts throughout the album that kind of make Harriet Harriet. So I guess putting that as a closer felt like the right move.
Okay. So what does make Harriet Harriet?
Oh God, that's such a hard question. Um,
You kind of set it up. So
I know I did. um, I would maybe lean into saying that like heavy is a mood rather than just a tone or like aggression. I think we're trying to steer more into heavy being a feeling and an overwhelming feeling. And that's something that we're trying to portray more with the atmospheric kind of tracks, the industrial tracks, the more cleanly sung tracks. I personally feel like the record from start to finish is heavy, but there's just different settings of heavy. Um, and I feel like that's what we set out to try and do is just create the intention of heavy overwhelmingness and bleakness, but just in different methods of portraying that.
okay. So it's a feel good album.
Yeah, it's a feel bad album.
A feel bad album. There you go. There's your tagline.
Yeah.
So apart from the music on the record, the sound of the record is phenomenal. Like it's a
Oh,
huge
thank you.
sounding record. That's partly down to you guys, but it's also down to a man called Will Putney, who is people will know from Fit for an Autopsy and End and like Pedalers, and he's a busy man. So it
Busy
was
man,
nice of
yeah.
him to squeeze you in to his schedule. Um, I don't even need to ask you why you chose him because he's obviously like a perfect choice. He must be a kind of dream choice in a way.
Mhm.
But how was it? How was the experience of working with him?
It was great. I mean, I've worked with Will before on one of N Song's Thor, and that was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
really fun process of, bouncing ideas off. And he was really, to be honest, he was great with just letting me do what I wanted to, and then being like, "Yep, do more of this," or And I found that a really great experience. Um, and same with the record, when the first mixes were coming back, it felt like the best we'd ever sounded, even from the early mixes. And I think production makes such a huge difference to a record. I know it might sound silly to say, but I feel like it's a real step up for us, sound wise, production wise, with this record.
Yeah. I would agree with you. Like I'm pretty big on my sound. Like
Hmm.
it can make a big difference to me with an album. But I think especially with you guys, because the music that you make is so heavy and kind of intense, I think you need a production that kind of brings everything out in that combination. I think Will's definitely done that. So I'm excited for people to hear this thing in full. I know they've had tasters. But I wanted to talk to you about your involvement with the band because last time we spoke, you were quite fresh to the band, and obviously they kind of had like a previous incarnation before you joined. I feel like at the beginning you were just kind of like putting your toe in the water a little bit, and especially vocally. So you feel more confident vocally now because your vocals are a pretty big part of this record now?
I think it's something that's like gradually crept up on me and us, I guess. Being a singer was never really my intention as a musician. It just kind of ended up being that way. Especially over the last 12 months, I think I've grown to know a little bit more about how I want to sound as a vocalist, which sounds, even now sounds a bit mad to me, but I've come from playing guitar for years and years and years, and when you think about that as an instrument, I've just had so much longer to get to know, how to play live, how to record, what riffs you like, solos, things like that. Whereas vocally, it was very like thrown in at the deep end. Um, but now, over the last few years, especially with touring, it's much less daunting than it originally was. I still don't really think of myself as a vocalist, but I'm sure that might change.
Yeah, like the main vocalist, although
Yeah.
it's almost like like the two of you now, like kind of sharing. Is it just the two of you that do vocals?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's mid-jack, yeah.
Yeah. But it works really well, and it just adds another like layer to your sound that a lot of bands, like heavy bands, don't really have because most heavy bands maybe have like a main singer and maybe like backing vocals, but it doesn't feel like that with you guys. So I think it just helps you stand out from the crowd as well, especially with like extreme music. Sometimes things can sound a little bit samey in that genre, as much as I love it, it can. But
Mhm.
I can't think of a band that sounds like Harriet. And that's like a pretty amazing thing in that world for sure.
Oh, thank you, mate.
What's been the strangest or the funniest or the weirdest reaction to your music so far along this journey? Anything
Whoa.
spring to mind? Because it is extreme.
Ooh, I don't know, 'cause I feel like we're, uh Hmm. There's a really funny YouTube reaction where someone's like, "Is that a chick? I thought that was a dude. That's a chick." And that is like something that we like joke about all the time. I think that was really funny. Especially since they were watching a music video, I was humbled to be thought of as a man. um, but yeah, I mean that's a funny one. I don't think we've had too many like insane kind of reactions to like that feel uncomfortable or anything like that.
What happens like when family members, they maybe they'll ask your parents, oh, what's Deb up to? And they say, oh, she's making music. And they're like, oh, what can I hear it? Is it on Spotify? And then they go on Spotify and they're like, oh, that's Deb.
Oh. Good luck to her. Yeah, my mum calls my actual clean singing uh, the wailing, which is not maybe how I intend it to be. She always says, "Oh, I love the wailing, Deb. Oh my God." So that's always a treat. Yeah, like both my parents are into heavy music, but not quite that heavy.
Yeah.
It's nice when they do like a song. My dad will say like, "Oh, I love the production," or like guitar tones sound wicked, but I don't think they would ever really listen to a band like us if I wasn't their daughter.
No,
But that's
probably
fine.
not. Yeah. I'm sure they're not like listening to all your contemporaries as well while they're doing doing the stuff around the house or whatever, listening to End and Conjurer and all
Yeah.
those guys. Um, so talk to me about touring. What's your plans with touring now that you can tell me?
Yes. We have a first ever month-long tour with Fit for an Autopsy, Silosis and Darkest Hour in November and December. So that's going from the UK into Europe. We've done Europe a few times before, but never as in depth for, like club shows rather than festivals. So that would be awesome. We're on the road for a month, and that's the longest stint for a tour rather than like festival shows that we've ever done. So we're all
Yeah,
really, really looking forward to that.
that's
That
a
feels
good
like
lineup as well.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it'll be fun.
you need to have some talks with these people and get that over to North America and I'm telling you now, Deb, if you come to North America and you don't play Montreal, I'm going to be upset.
Oh God.
But I'll try and come wherever you play.
I would love to come to Montreal.
Yeah, we would love to have you. Um, enough people have seen me wearing my HERIOT t-shirt at a show, so they must be at least curious.
Oh.
I think I met Will at the End show um earlier this year, and I was wearing a HERIOT shirt. And I think at that point I didn't know that you were working together. You obviously were behind the scenes. But I didn't know it was happening. What's one thing that you think people don't really get about HERIOT or they don't get right?
I think some people maybe don't. I've had a lot of people say to me recently, "Oh, I didn't realize that you were that heavy." Recently, which feels mad to me, but I'm so deep in it. Obviously, I
Yeah.
think because we have like a maybe a weirder kind of sound. I don't. If you haven't listened to us, I think people maybe misinterpret that. Yeah, I think sometimes we're people kind of overlook that we are just like a heavy metal band, I guess. Like
You
we're
call
not really.
yourself a heavy metal band because when I think of heavy metal, I think of like Judas Priest and Saxon and
Yeah, I get that, but then like sometimes I'll be watching like a hardcore band or something, and I'll be like, yeah, we're not hardcore, and then you'll watch like I don't know a metalcore band, and I'll be like, no, we're not metalcore. I think it's easier to just put us under the umbrella of metal than it is to go deep into the subgenres sometimes.
yeah.
Because I'm not sure really where we best sit other than on a real dirty metal line. If I guess, I don't know.
Filthy
I don't
metal.
know. Yeah.
But
I think
isn't that
so.
great? Isn't that great that you find yourself struggling to categorize yourself?
I
I
don't
think
know.
that's a
Sometimes,
good
I
thing.
mean, I think it's good and bad. Sometimes I think, ah, yeah, the times I think, where do we belong? But it what will be, and I'm sure we'll find, our best place on lineups and things like that.
Yeah.
Especially with the new album.
Okay, so we've spoken once before. If we speak again in this kind of format, hopefully we'll speak in person. But what would you what would you love to have happened in between now and the next time we talk?
Ooh. I would love to have gone out to the US. I would love to do a US tour, and with some Canada shows on.
And Canada, yeah, we have to
Yeah.
say.
I'm half Canadian, so I definitely want to do Canada.
Oh, are you? I didn't know that.
Yeah, my dad's from Toronto.
Ah, okay. So you have to come to
Yeah, I've got
Canada.
dual nationality. I've got Canadian passport, so I'm
Oh, wow.
deep in.
I even got a Canadian passport, yeah.
Ah,
I've been here
um,
10 years.
oh wow. Um, yeah, I would love to do the US and Canada. That's I think that's collectively our next big goal is to do that at some point over the
Yeah,
next 12 months or 18 months. Yeah,
yeah.
that would be awesome.
It's gonna happen, I'm sure. So I can't wait. So yeah, well I look forward to seeing you in person, whether it's here or back in the UK when I'm over there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just really, really happy to see everything going so well. I know guys, you guys have all been working hard for this and it's much deserved. The album is just phenomenal. I'm not just saying that. I think you know,
Oh,
I think
thank
it's
you.
phenomenal. So I'm excited for people to hear it. But thank you very much for your time. And
Thank you so much, mate.
yeah, say hi to the guys for me.
Will do. It's so lovely to see you, and I
You
really
too.
hope that we see you soon.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. See you then.
See you later. Bye.